Hello and welcome. This lesson is going to be about system of equations with word problems part 2. In this part, we're going to use this little format here to write our equation. So first of all, in this box, we're going to put the first variable or the first thing to appear in the problem equals the multiplier, which usually is a number referred to by these keywords half, double, twice, triple, any number that means multiplying. And then the second variable or the second thing to appear in the word problem, followed by plus or minus, depending if we see any of these words, more than, greater than, less than, fewer than. So let's take a look how to use this in a word problem. Here we have an example number 1. A cell phone store has 12 more iPhones than Android phones. In total, there are 462 cell phones. Write a system of equations that can be used to determine I, the number of iPhones, and A, the number of Android phones the store has. Find the number of iPhones and Android phones the store has. As always, we're going to start the problem by writing the three things, which is variable, the question, and a place for equations. The problem tells us that we have the variable I, which equals the number of iPhones, and A is the number of Android phones. Now the question is, find the number of iPhones and Android phones. Now what we want to do is look at this problem and use this format to fill in our information. So a cell phone store has 12 more iPhones than Android phones. So I see the iPhone comes before Android phone. So that means I is going to go in the first box. I don't have any word that means multiplication, such as half, double, twice, or triple. But I do have 12 more, which is plus 12. And the second variable is Android. So in this particular problem, we don't have a multiplier, but we do have something that is being added, which is 12. So the number of iPhones is 12 more than the Android phones. So therefore, that's my first equation that I'm going to put right here. So A plus 2. Now it says here in total there are 462 cell phones. Well, so total would be equals 462. What kind of phones do we have in this store? We have two types of phones. We have the iPhone and the Android phone. So that basically will be my second equation. So there we go. We have a system of equation. And if you notice, we have a letter I by itself. So the best way to solve this system of equation is by substitution, which means since the I is alone, I'm going to go to the second equation. I put an arrow. And instead of I, I'm going to replace with what I equals to, which is A plus 2. And then I copy the rest of the equation just as it is. So all I did is, instead of writing I replace I with A plus 2, and I copy the rest of the equation. The rest is just solving equations, so I'm going to have 2, A plus A is 2A equals 422. We subtract 2 from both sides. We get 2A equals 420. We divide it by 2 on both sides, and we get then the number of Android phones is 420 divided by 2. Let's take a look. 420 divided by 2 equals 210. Once you have that, you can choose you can choose the equation that is in a circle and copy that and bring this value that you found and plug it in. So be I equals 210 plus 2. The number of iPhone is 212. So there you go. We found the value of iPhones and the value of Android phones. Very good. Let's go on to the next problem. Next problem says, Mr. Smith's class has a mixture of boys and girls. He has a total of 28 students. There are 3 times as many boys as girls. Write a system of equations that can be used to determine G, the number of girls, and B, the number of boys in Mr. Smith's class. Find the number of boys and the number of girls in the class. Again, let's establish our variables, which is going to be B and G, where G is the number of girls and B is the number of boys. The question of this problem is find the number of boys and girls. Very good. Then we're going to do equation. And the problem says there are a total of 28 students. Well, there's 2 types of students, the boys and the girls. So B plus G equals 28. And then it says, and that's where you need to use this format. So there are 3 times as many boys as girls. So boys comes first, and then girls come second, so it goes in the second box. And it says 3 times as many boys. So that means this is a 3 times is multiplying, so they'll be in the front here. And I don't have any keyword meaning adding or subtracting, so that means there's not going to be anything left there. So in other words, the second equation is B equals 3G. So there's my 2 equations, and I notice the second one has the B alone. So that means on my first equation I copy, and I replace B with 3G. And if I add both sides, if I add these 2, I get 4G equals 28. And we divide both sides by 4. We get the number of girls to be equals 7. And then I copy the one that is in circle, and I bring this value that I found and I plug it in. So be the number of boys equals 3 times 7. So the number of boys is 21. So there we go. We found the both values that we're looking for, boys and girls. Very good. Let's go on to the next page. Here we have the next problem. So let's go ahead and set it up. We need a place for variables, a place for questions, and a place for equations. So Miss Thompson has some quarters and dimes in her pocket. She has a total of $3.10. The number of dimes is 4 more than twice the number of quarters. Write a system of equations that can be used to determine D, the number of dimes, and Q, the number of quarters Miss Thompson has. Find the number of each coin. So here we have D, which is the number of dimes. And we have Q, the number of quarters. So this would be D and Q. Now, Miss Thompson has some quarters and dimes in her pocket. She has a total of $3.10. So the first equation has to do with total and has to do with money. So we're going to put 310, and the way we get there is because we have quarters and dimes. And remember, we're going to, if this is the number of dollars, that means we need to put the quantity in front. So this would be 0.25, and this would be 0.10. So 25 cents per quarter plus 10 cents per dime equals $3.10. Now it says here the second phrase, the number of dimes. Okay, and this is one where you can use the little setup that we created. So the number of dimes is the first variable to appear, is 4 more, so that will be plus 4, then twice is multiplication, the number of quarters. So that means the dimes is 4 more than twice the number of quarters. So my next equation here is 2 2q plus 4. D equals 2q plus 4. And the D is alone. So that means I copy the first equation. And I'm going to replace the letter D because the letter D is the one that is alone here. So I'm going to copy again 0.25 quarters plus 0.10. And then instead of D, I'm going to write 2q plus 4 equals $3.10. So we're going to get rid of the parentheses. So this would be 0.25 q plus 0.20 q. 0.10 times 4 is 0.40 equals 310. Now, next order of business in solving equations, combine like terms. So we're going to combine these two. So I'm going to get 0.45 q plus 0.40 equals 310. Next, we're going to cancel the numbers. So cancel 0.04. 0.40, sorry. Cancel that. So we get 0.45 q equals, now let's see here, 3.10 minus 0.40, and we get 270. Now we divide both sides by 0.45. So I have no more space here, so I'm going to write over here. And let's see. So we have 2.7 divided by 0.45, and we get 6. We get 6 quarters. And then to find the number of dimes, we copy the circle here. And we bring this value q that we found. So this would be 2, open parenthesis, 6 plus 4. So this would be 12 plus 4, which is 16. So there's a total of 16 dimes and 6 quarters. Very well. Let's go on to the next problem. The next problem says the perimeter of a rectangle is 260 centimeters. If the length is 5 centimeters less than twice its width, write a system of equations that can be used to determine L the length and W the width. Find the dimensions of the rectangle. So right there, we know that the variables are L and W, L being the length and W being the width. And the question is to find the dimensions of the triangle, of the rectangle. So then we're looking for L and W. Very good. Now, the problem says the perimeter of a rectangle. I need you, anytime you see the word perimeter of a rectangle, I need you to remember what perimeter is. And if you remember, perimeter is the sum of all sides. On a rectangle, you usually have length and length here, and width and width. So if I was to find the perimeter of this rectangle, it would be L plus W plus L plus W. And if I combine that, this would be 2L, because I have 2 L's right here, and then I have 2 W's. So in other words, anytime you think about the word perimeter of a rectangle, I need you to remember this formula, 2L plus 2W. So when translating this problem, and when reading perimeter of a rectangle, I automatically think, oh, 2L plus 2W is 260. Now the second phrase is where I can use that setup that we're learning in this lesson. And we see if the length, that's the first variable to appear, is 5 less than twice its width. So width is the second variable. And we here see the word there's multiplication, which is twice, so it'll be 2 times W. And 5 less will be subtract 5. So basically, the length is 5 less than twice the width. So right there is our second equation, and that one is the one I put a circle around. I copied the first equation, so this would be 2L plus 2W equals 260. Now I'm going to plug it in the L, so this would be 2 times 2W minus 5 plus 2W equals 260. So basically I copied the first equation, I used the other equation. Since the L is alone, I put an arrow underneath the L, and instead of L, I replace it with 2W minus 5. Now I multiply, so this would be 4W minus 10 plus 2W equals 260. Now combine like terms, we get 6W minus 10 equals 260. We add 10 to both sides, so 10 goes away. 6W equals 270. We divide both sides by 6, and we should get our width, which is, let's see here, 270 divided by 6, which is 45. Very good. Now that we have the width, we can find the length by copying the circle here, 2W minus 5, and we bring it in the width that we found, which is 2 times 45 minus 5. 2 times 45 is 90, minus 5 is 85. So there we go. This completes our last example. Today we learned about this setup that help us translate certain problems that have words. Basically, the first box is for the first variable to appear in the problem. The second box is for the second variable. Any words that means multiplication goes right here, and any words adding or subtracting goes right there. And if you follow these steps, you should be fine in establishing your two equations. Okay, one more important thing that we learned in this very last problem was that if you see the word perimeter, please remember 2L plus 2W. 2L plus 2W equals 260. The perimeter rectangle is 260. Okay, so I hope that this lesson was helpful. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.